So there's this common myth that goes around the internet that when you're in your 20s, you should be spending that time trying to get ahead. And as someone in their 20s, where most of my friends are in our 20s, I often hear a bunch of and feel a bunch of existential career risk angst around, whatever, I haven't really figured out what to do with my life. I haven't figured out what my career path is going to be for the next 50 years. Maybe I'm kind of doing things wrong because I'm exploring this YouTube thing rather than doing medicine. Anyway, what you're about to hear is a little snippet from a conversation that I had on the Deep Dive podcast with Hannah Witten, where we talk about this idea of getting ahead in your 20s, and I think Hannah gives some amazing advice that every 20-year-old needs to hear. Were you concerned at all about the YouTube thing not being a, quote, real job? And what is your career going to look like 10 years down the line? You're still going to be making videos, all of those fears that people have as they switch from a, quote, proper job to a, quote, not proper job.
I don't know, because I don't really ever feel like I had a proper job.
Yeah.
Because even what I was doing for that charity, I was a freelancer and I was making YouTube videos, but just for somebody else, which, if anything, was proof very early days for me that this is a skill that other people also want, and will pay you for.
Yeah.
But I think I have more of those fears about the longevity of it now than I did then.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning, I was just I'm riding this wave. This is going well. Let's not freak out. Let's just keep going, build on this momentum. But also it was just me then. Whereas now it's I rent a studio space. I have a team. There's definitely a lot more of the business element to it now as well, and maybe you can relate to this as well. At the beginning, I was in my early 20s, had no dependents, had savings, so I was just kind of your early 20s is when you move to London and you take risks. That's what you're supposed to do, right? So I didn't feel any fear there, because I was just if this all goes tits up, that's normal. I'm 23. Do you know what I mean? Who cares? Yeah. Whereas now it's I'm about to turn 30. I'm about to have a baby. I have a mortgage. I have a team. I have a business that has a lot of overhead costs. Yeah. A lot more fears about the longevity now than then, for sure.
Yeah, so on the point about your 20s being for experimentation, that itself is kind of a novel thing. I guess for medicine in particular, your 20s are for setting yourself up for success. In banking and consulting and law, your 20s are hey, let's hustle, so that when I'm 30, I'll have made partner at McKinsey or whatever people do. And a friend of mine was also medic in my year, who recently quit medicine to pursue a job in tech, put out a tweet that went viral the other day, which was basically when I left medicine at 26, I was really scared because for the last 10 years, I had a very clear path. And now it feels like all this uncertainty. But then I realized actually my 20s are for experimentation. That tweet went viral, and people I think the idea that you can actually just screw around doing stuff in your 20s and it's actually okay. Is actually fairly novel to a lot of people.
Well, we put a lot of pressure on people to make a decision about the next 10 years of their life really early. And you'll know this, from doing medicine at uni. So at some point you decide you want to become a doctor. Okay, you have to do medicine at university. Okay, in order to get into uni to do medicine, I need these A levels.
Yeah.
In order to get into college to do those A levels, I need these GCSEs. At what age are you making a decision about what GCSEs you're doing? You're 14.
Yeah.
You're 14 and you made all of those decisions for the next 10 years of your life. We specialize real early in the UK in terms of those decisions that we're making about our studies and our work and career and stuff. I didn't have that because I went the humanities route. But yeah, I do think that there is a lot of pressure to know what you want to do. And then also as a culture, we idolize and look up to people who are really successful very young. We're oh my God, look at what they've achieved and they're only 21. Isn't that incredible? But then you find yourself actually comparing yourself to a lot of these people who had great success in whatever it is they're doing super young.
Yeah, there's a bunch of examples in tech in particular that get thrown around that, yes, there are some 19-year-olds founding Stripe or Facebook or whatever, but actually the guy who founded LinkedIn was in his 40s. Jeff Bezos was in his 30s when he started Amazon. There are people in their 50s starting these companies as well.
Yeah.
And it's not a race. This is one thing that I find a lot of people do in our YouTuber Academy, where especially if it's older people comparing themselves to the younger kids. And it's if you're in your 40s and you've got a family and a mortgage and a job, there's just no way you can give the amount of time to YouTube as a 19-year-old at uni studying psychology who has one lecture a week who's just like banging out the content.
But if you're over 60 and you're retired, maybe you've got loads of time to dedicate to YouTube. Like, amazing. Chelsea Fagan, who's the CEO and co-founder of the Financial Diet, she like often talks about how, I think on her Instagram or like on social media in general, she basically only follows influencers who are over 50.
Oh, interesting.
Because she's just like, we're a youth obsessed culture, and for her, like, she's in her early 30s and she just wants to see older women thriving, because we also as a culture kind of like, you know, you're a woman and gets to a certain age and suddenly you become completely invisible to the world. And so for her, she like is actively seeking out these like positive examples of older women just like thriving and like doing their thing. And I'm like, I love that. That was brilliant.
Hey friends, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, then click here for the full unedited episode. And if you like that, then do please consider subscribing to the channel. It means a lot. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.